Welcome to Modern Church Leader, a short daily show to help you grow your church, be more effective and efficient, and powerful for the kingdom of God.
First thing I want to talk about are the pros of remote work at church. The first one is the technology is here. We're in the 21st century. We've got great tools for chat, video communications, emails. There's no excuse to not be able to do remote work these days. Like, technology is here. You can get great tools and resources for very cheap or next to nothing. So the ability to work remotely is so possible now with these amazing advancements in the internet and these technologies that people are creating. So the great thing about remote work in the church these days is the technology's there. We've got all the tools. Different companies have built video communication platforms, chat platforms, emails. There's so many great resources out there that a church can use to, build a remote work platform. And the great thing is that it's free to, and also could cost next to nothing. So some great remote work apps that we've used at Tithely are an application called Zoom, which is for video communication. It's got really great video quality, really great sound quality. We also use Slack as a chat platform. It's a great way to ask quick questions, as needed during the day when you're working with different people. And then obviously, using the normal email platform is also a great way to share documents, things like that. So there's so many other great tools out there. So I encourage you to go out and have a look at what's available. Yeah, the great thing about remote work is you can work anywhere, anytime. You don't have to be limited by certain hours. There's a lot of flexibility around that. Of course, in any job, there's going to be times where you're going to have to overlap the other people in your work, whether it be a meeting or face-to-face or anything like that. But again, using great remote tools like Zoom for video communications, a lot of that can be done. And then when your staff don't need to necessarily have that face-to-face time, they can be working anytime. They can work a little bit earlier, they can work a little bit later. The flexibility of remote work just opens up so many opportunities, especially for young families. If they've got kids and have to pick them up from school, having the ability to work anywhere and any time can add a lot of value to their lives. From my experience, there can be so much less distraction by working from home. I don't know about you, but you might be at the office and you head over to the water cooler and next minute you've had a 15-minute conversation with a colleague. It's very easy to start chatting in the office and you can become quite unproductive. So having your own space at home where you've got no one talking to you, you've got no one asking questions, it gives your employees, your workers at church an opportunity to really get deep work done and get things done in a good time frame rather than getting distracted by questions and things like that. So working remotely really does eliminate a lot of those office place distractions. Another great thing about working remotely is it gives you so much more flexibility for life matters. So, whether it be going to the post office to pick up a letter or going to a dentist or doctor appointment, it just gives your staff so much more flexibility to be able to do those things without having to be bound to lunchtime or different ways. Another great thing is it allows people to have more time for family as well. Family time is so important. Not having to commute every day saves a lot of time for people. So there's so many great things that having that flexibility working from home or working from a cafe brings to people. Another great thing about remote work is you're not limited to local talent anymore. You could, there's going to be roles in your church that you don't necessarily have to have those people at your church. There might be administrative roles, there might be data entry roles that you could outsource to anywhere in the city or another state or even another country. So one of the cons of working remotely is the socializing, the face-to-face aspect of the job. When you're in an office space, traditionally, you're going to be talking to people, you're going to have lots of conversations. So I think it's important for remote workers to have a good kind of solid base, a community around them. Great thing about church is if the people that you are hiring remotely are in your church, they're going to get that on a Sunday, they're going to be at small group during the week. So that's going to be less of an issue in the church world. But if you are hiring people remotely, maybe that don't attend your church, ensuring that they've got a good remote base of community around them is really important, just to make sure that they're getting that human interaction, that socialization, because it can be lonely working remotely. So that's one of the cons that I see from that. Another con I've seen working remotely is it's quite easy to work longer hours. You don't have the boss walks out or your other colleagues walking out the door to kind of jog your memory. Hey, it's 5 p.m. It's quite easy to spend long periods of time at your desk. So I recommend, to combat that is maybe having a timer to remind you to get up maybe every 20 minutes, every hour, whatever suits you, just to get you moving, go get a glass of water. But one thing I have seen is people can work longer than they should because they don't have as many boundaries. So it's important for for you to encourage your team that are working remotely to have those boundaries so they're not working too long. So another thing that I see is it can be hard to switch off when you're working from home. Different people struggle with that in different ways. Obviously, having a separate place in your house, if it's in another room or in the basement, is ideal to help you combat that. And there's also some other great resources out there to learn and maybe ways and tricks to help you switch off, because when you're working from home, you're in that environment, you walk out the door and your family are there, you obviously want to be switched off, you don't want to be thinking about work. So that's one thing that can be quite hard if you're not disciplined in that area. So communication can be more difficult with your team in a remote space. I think using those tools that we mentioned earlier, like Slack or Zoom for video communication, can help improve that. But it's important as a remote force to ensure that communication is effective, make sure that people are communicating when they should, because sometimes when you're not in the office and you can't just ask the person next to you a question, communication can become a little bit disjointed. So that can be one con when it comes to working remotely. Non-work distractions can easily crop up and get in the way of work. When you're working from home, you might have your kids trying to bust into the door. You might have your wife asking you to mow the lawn, anything like that. So setting good boundaries, maybe buying a decent lock on your door is a good thing. But at the same time, it's so great to be able to be at home. I was at home the other day working, and my son was learning how to ride his bike for the first time, and I got to experience that. So although there can be work distractions around the house, there are things you can do to help limit that, but there's also so much joy that you can bring your employees that get to experience things that they may not if they're in the traditional office. I'd really love to encourage you, if you've never thought about allowing some of your team to work remotely, to give it a go. Maybe it's 1 day a week, maybe it's 2 days a week, maybe there's certain people that you'd love to give it a go. Honestly, it's a great thing to even trial if you haven't even thought about doing it properly. I know one big issue that a lot of employers in the church world and the secular world can be that trust factor. But the way I see it is you wouldn't hire someone that you don't trust anyway. So I think it's important to remember that, and you'd be surprised by giving people a little bit of autonomy, a little bit of trust in that way. You'll be really surprised at how well they'll do, how efficient they'll be. It's such a great thing. It adds so much value to people's life. We want our staff and our people to be happy. So if we can create ways to help manage that work and life balance, I think we're in for a real win, and we're going to have better staff, happier staff that are going to be in there for the long run. So that's my thoughts today about how to do remote work in church.
Thanks for listening. Please review Modern Church Leader on Apple Podcasts and visit our website for more resources at tithe.ly or follow the links in the show notes.